is that people are lured away. You know, if it's a young kid, they're lured away by candy. They're lured away by these things. But us as being middle and high school students, we're lured away too. We can't discredit that we are lured away. What are we lured away by? Relationships, social media, magazines, trying to be something to fit in. This is who I see on the screen. This is who I'm going to be. So we're lured away to be something that we see in a magazine, that we see on TV. So we're lured away. Okay? We have to understand that sin is alluring. You know, God has a plan for each one of us. We have to understand that. Just like God has a plan for us, so does the devil. Satan has a plan for our lives. He does. We can act and say, no, Satan doesn't have a plan. Yes, he does. And we're going to talk about it. You know, we cannot let sin control our lives. We just can't do it. There's no reason we should let something control our lives that doesn't have to. You know, we don't have to lay down. If somebody was kidnapping me, I'm not going to just say, okay, I'm going to let you take me. I'm going to fight for everything that I am. And just like sin in our lives, when sin tries to approach and come into our lives, are we just going to give up and say, well, that's just how it is? No, we're going to fight for it because that's what we do. We're not going to allow something to take us somewhere that we don't. But the question I want to ask you guys, are you fighting right now? Are you fighting right now? If you're honest with yourself, are you fighting right now for your life? You know, God has made each one of us beautiful in our own way. You know, we don't have to be like somebody else. We can be exactly who God's called us to be. You know, one thing I know about sin is this. If you've seen in the video, it said this: sin will take you further than you want to go and keep you longer than you want to stay. Okay? And I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to read a little passage of scriptures, and it's out of Matthew 26:14-16. It says this: then one of the 12, so it's talking about one of the 12 disciples, one of the ones that Jesus called to be his disciple. This is who he's talking about. He says this: one of the 12, the one called Judas, went to the chief priest and asked, what are you willing to give me if I deliver him over to you? So they counted out for him 30 pieces of silver. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. Sometimes we don't even realize how deep we are in sin until it is right in front of our eyes. Judas was a disciple of Jesus Christ, but in the midst of desiring money, he gave up his relationship with Jesus for money. You know, we think that people sell themselves for money, and they drive and they want money, they want more money. I tell my brother all the time, and it's the truth. My brother will probably watch this video. The truth of the matter is, my brother always talks about money. And I told my brother many times that that's never going to make you who you want to be. It never will. Judas thought that if he gave up Jesus, the Son of God, that he was going to gain 30 pieces that were gone. They were just, come on. So what Judas did was Judas forfeited his relationship with Jesus over money. He was more excited about gaining money than he was with his relationship with Jesus. But this Judas actually had a relationship with Jesus that went far beyond just saying, man, I just kick it with Jesus. But the truth is that he actually walked daily with Jesus and did ministry with Jesus and had a close relationship with Jesus, but he still forfeited his relationship over money. I'm sure Judas, when Jesus first called Judas and said, Judas, I want you to be my disciple, I guarantee Judas in his mind wasn't like, you know what, this is cool, I'm going to get with Jesus, I'm going to kick it with him for a while, because I know one day I'm going to be able to turn him over and get some money. Sin will take you further than you want to go and keep you longer than you want to stay. The end of this story, Judas hung himself because of all the guilt he felt, all the guilt and pain that he felt for betraying Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Let me read this. I want to point this out. In John 10:10, check this out. Okay? It says this. Almost everybody knows this. If you don't, now you do. It says this: that the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. That's in John 10:10. Let me ask you a question. Why would you ever hang out with somebody that wanted to kill you? Why would you ever want to hang out with somebody that wanted to kill you? But every day we sin. And we do things that's contrary to our relationship with God. And plainly in the Bible it says in John 10:10 that he comes to kill, steal, and destroy us. And we're just kicking it with him. We're just saying, you know what, sin's a part of my life. I can't do anything about it because Adam sinned and Eve sinned, and now there's sin in the world, so it's just a part of me. No, that's not the truth. Why would we ever have a relationship with somebody that's like, you know what, I know you're going to kill me, but I'm going to hang out with you anyways. It's like, come on, seriously? There was a time when I was in my mess, living in sin, and it's a depiction. I'll tell you, it really sums that up. I was going over to a guy's house, and he was all paranoid, whacked out, crazy, okay? And I walked, and the next thing you know, this guy jumps around the corner and puts a gun in my head. And I'm not making it up. Puts a gun to my head. Would I have went there if I knew he was going to put a gun to my head? Then why do we hang out and are okay with sin in our life? It's the same thing. Why are we okay? If sin had a gun pointed at your head, would you hang out with it? Not. No. Because our lives are too important to give up who God has made us to be because of a feeling, because of an emotion, because of something we desire. We can't give up all that God's given us because of that. Every day there are things that pull us different ways. There's tons of things. If we walk down our hall at school and we see somebody wearing the newest shoes, and it happens a lot, and we're like, man, I gotta get those. Well, do you have to get those or do you want those? You know, there's so many things. There's friends saying, you know what, come hang out with me. It's okay to drink. Well, are you sure? Are you sure? If you ask the 21-year-old that was legally able to drink and chose to get behind a wheel and is dead right now, I'm sure she would tell you it's different. Not saying drinking is the worst thing in the world, but why would we ever want to be a part of something that can destroy us? Why? Why do we play? You know, it's like when we're younger, our parents say, don't play with fire. Why? Because it'll burn us. Why do we get so close to sin, just far enough that we don't get burnt, and then sometimes the wind switches and it burns us? Because we're too close. We're too close into sin. You know, sin is a huge part of our lives. Everywhere you go, you see sin. You see all these things. But if you look around, you see all the things that God has done too. So I can't discredit that. But what kidnaps our heart from God is sin. Is our desire to have more, to be more like somebody else, to be taller, to be skinnier, to be bigger, to do all these things, these desires to change who we are. We lose who God has created us to be. And that gives us an opportunity for Satan to come in and kidnap our heart. Okay? There's a story in the Bible, okay? And it's titled The Parable of the Lost Son. Okay? And I'm going to paraphrase it for you guys. Okay? It's this young kid. He's from a wealthy family. His dad's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of land. And he goes up to his dad one day and says, hey, give me all that's mine. Give me my money. Give me my inheritance. Let me roll. Let me ride. Come on. Let me go. Come on, Dad. It's mine. Let me go. And it says this. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth and lived in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in the whole country, and he began to be in need. Sometimes we have to come to a place where we're in need before we realize we ever need help. This guy was like, well, give me my money, I'm ready to go. I'm going to spend it however I want. But then when he came to the place where he said, wow, I don't have anything. I spent all the money. I spent everything that my dad gave me. And now, what do I have? And it goes on to say this. He came to his senses. Thank God he came to his senses and realized that that wasn't his life. That wasn't what he was created for. You know, we have to understand that God hasn't created us to live half-hearted lives, to live halfway in sin and halfway out. On the weekends, we walk into sin, or during the week, we're okay with hanging out with sin, but during the week, we're in school and we're cool. But no, God says, you know what? I don't want you to live in sin, and you don't have to. You don't even have to experience. Why? Because there's people in front of you that are going to teach you and train you in the ways to stay away from it. This young man came to his senses and realized, you know what? This was not God's plan for my life. He goes on to say that he ended up feeding the pigs and desired to eat what was in the pig's trough. He came to the place where he desired to eat what the pigs ate. Think of that. He came from wealth, and now he's desiring to eat pig, whatever you want to call it, junk. I don't even know what. I've seen some of that stuff, and it is disgusting. And he was desiring to eat it. But I want to point something out. The greatest part of this story was not that this guy was selfish and was like, you know what, I'm going to live however I want to live, I'm going to go do that. But the greatest part in this story was at the end. I want to read something to you, okay? Let me find it. Listen to this. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Have we ever thought about that God is waiting for us to come to our senses and come home? God is not a God of, oh, you've sinned too many times, so I have nothing to do with you. I don't want you to be a part of my life. I don't want you to come near me. Come on. This guy, it says that went a long way off. This guy seen his son coming. How did he notice that his son was a long way off? Because he always had his eye on the road to the town. It's kind of like our relationship with God. Is that God always has his eye on us. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing that we can do to separate the love of God from us. No bad, no wrong, nothing that we can do. God's love is eternal. His forgiveness is everlasting. It doesn't matter what we've done, as long as we choose to come to our senses like this kid did and say, you know what? I know I've made some wrong decisions. I know I've done the wrong thing. But God, I'm sorry. And I turn and I go back home. God is wanting us to come home. God is wanting us to come home and to be in the house that he's called us to. Not to be in a far-off land squandering our lives. And, for 9 years, I squandered my life living however I wanted to live because I wanted to live it. But when I came to my senses when I was 19 years old and realized that God had so much more for my life, I totally switched up and said, you know what? I'm tired of living in a pig's pen. And I'm ready to live in the house that God has called me to. It's just the truth. And God will never say, you know what, you've sinned too much, you've done too much bad, I don't want you. God will never say that. I promise you that. How do I know? Because I'm a living example of his love, even in the midst of me being in sin. It says that he died while we were still sinners. So no one can ever say, man, I've sinned too much, I'm too far gone, I can't ever come back. The truth of the matter is, the reason you tell yourself you can never come back is because you really don't want to. You have an opportunity every day to change your life. I don't wake up every day saying, you know what, I really want to serve the Lord today. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, man, it is hard. But you know what? God has called me to this. He's called me to a place being in his home, and he loves me no matter my struggles, no matter my pain, no matter the things I go through. I know that he's going to be there. Why? Because he said, in my weakness, he's made strong. So we can't ever discredit, man, I'm weak, I'm tired. Well, that's when God's the strongest in our lives, because we realize how desperate we are for him. We have to be desperate for God. We have to. Really, thank God. Thank God he came to his senses. That he realized that, you know what? Living in a pigsty and living this way is not what God's called me to live. The enemy, Satan, is real. I don't know if you know that, but you're going to know that tonight. How do I know? Because if he wasn't, the life I lived, it would have no value. The crazy life I lived, I didn't do it because I enjoyed it. I did it because I was in bondage. I was a slave. If you've seen on the video, it says that sin demands you to live as a slave. It demands you to live as a slave. It demands you to live as a slave. You know, at the end of the story of the prodigal son coming home, it said that the father embraced the son. The father embraced the son. He said, you know what? And then his brother, check this out. I'll go even further. Daniel, will you turn the stage lights on and the room lights off? I'll go even further. It says that when he was embraced, it says the father embraced him. It says the father embraced him, and his brother came. His brother came and was mad at his dad because he embraced his son that walked away. I want to tell you something. There's going to be people that are mad because you're wanting to change your life. There's going to be people that hate on you because you're wanting to change your life because they're not willing to step up to the plate and change it. There's so many people that struggle with that say, you know what? You're just a fake. There's no way it's true. There's no way you can change your life, but the truth of the matter is you can change your life. And it can be tonight. It can be in the moments that you spend with the Lord. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what people say. I want you to know that. Because if it mattered what people said to me, I wouldn't be standing here. But the truth is that a lot of people were haters in my life and that said, Jason, you're never going to amount to anything. And today I say, you know what? It doesn't matter what they said because look at where I'm at today. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I want you guys to realize that. If you want to change your life, change your life. Don't let somebody tell you you're never going to be different, that you can't change, because the truth is you can change if you want to change. But you have to want to change. No one can make you change. You have to choose to change. My mom couldn't pray enough prayers for my life to change. I had to come to the place where I said, you know what, I'm so tired of living in a pigsty, and I'm so tired of living in a place that God never called me to, that I'm willing to change my life. I'm willing to do something different. I want to read something to you. In Galatians 5:17 says this, for the sinful nature desires what is contrary to the Spirit. Sinful nature desires what is contrary to the Spirit. So sin desires everything contrary to God. When we live in sin, our lives are contrary to God. I want you guys to know you don't have to come perfect to God. Because everybody knows, my wife can tell you I am not perfect. I make mistakes. But God still loves me because He's watching me from a long off. He's waiting for me. When I make a mistake, He's waiting for me to say, you know what, Pastor Jason, I'm ready for you to come home. I'm ready for you to come home. I'm ready for you to come into my life and be a part of my life. That's what God's saying to some of you guys tonight. What is contrary to the Spirit? We have to remember that there's things tugging on our hearts and minds that are wanting us to be led away from our relationship with God. But we have to remember, just as the tug of this world pulls on us, our Father in heaven is rooting us on to make right decisions. Christian, turn the house speakers on because the monitors are the only thing on. I want you guys to realize the greatest gift God has given me is people in my life to encourage me. Because life is not hard all the time, and life is not easy all the time. But what I want you to know tonight, that we can do it. We can do it. You can do it, and we can do it together. That's the only way you can do it, is with our relationship with God and having people around us that support us, that encourage us, and that strengthen us. I don't want to see any of you guys live a life that is anything contrary to our relationship with God. You know, sin desires our lives. You know why? I want to tell you something. Why does sin play a part in everybody's life? Because in the Bible it says that He formed us in our mother's womb, and that He knows every hair on our head, and He knows everything about us. Sin wants to destroy everything that God has made you to be. But what I want you to know is sin does not have to dictate your life. I really don't, it doesn't matter. I want you guys to realize this. It really does not matter what people say about you. Because people are going to hate wherever you go. Doesn't matter where you're at in leadership. It doesn't matter where you're at in life. People are going to hate. Why? Because they're not willing to take the steps necessary to have a life that is centered in Christ. It's not the easiest thing. I promise you it's not the easiest thing, but it's my relationship with God is the most important thing. And it has to be the most important thing in each one of our lives. I really know, I really feel in my heart is that there's so many people in here that people have said, you know what, that's all you're going to be. You're never going to do anything good. This is all you're going to be. You know, some people will label you in different words and say, this is who you are. But God doesn't look at us like that. God looks at us as children of Himself. So whenever somebody says, this is all you are, this is all you'll ever be, all you have to say is, you know what? God didn't tell me that. I want to be a generation, I want to be a pastor of some students that are willing to stand up for God. That are willing to say, you know what, my relationship is crucial. And you know what, I was at Barron Collier on Tuesday. And I was talking about how, you know, so many times we come into a room, and I was just honest with them, for the people that were there. I was just honest with them. I said, it's all cool and dandy that you come to this room in FCA and you say you're a Christian and you're hanging out with Christian friends. But the truth, when the rubber meets the road, is when you walk into the hall, what are you talking about? What are you saying? What is your mind telling you? What is your thoughts? When somebody bumps into you in the hall, what do you think? That's what I want you to focus on tonight. Is that sin will kidnap us, our relationship from God, and make us somebody that we never meant to be. Do you think I ever wanted to be who I was before I met Jesus? No. Do you think I wanted to live behind buildings and my mom not to trust me? And my mom not to want anything to do with me? Or my brother to tell me before I went into Teen Challenge, you know what, I want nothing to do with you. I was with my brother over the weekend, and he said, you know what, I was done with you. He said, I was done with you. I didn't really care what you did. I was done with you. And little did he know, when God got a hold of my life, I would be totally different. I look at it like this. If we ask ourselves, you know, If somebody was going to kidnap you and you had a taser, would you use it? Why you would? Because you're protecting your life. What if that taser was your relationship with God? What if that taser was your relationship with God, and when sin came to steal you or to take you away, all you had was a taser, which is your relationship with God, and that was the only thing you had to defend off the person that was trying to take you? Would you do it? Would your taser even have batteries to work? How do you get your batteries filled up? How do you get strong in your faith? How do you get, more, devoted to the Lord and live more heartedly for Him? You have to start reading your Bible. You have to begin to pray. Let me ask you a question. What if I never got away from sin? What if I just threw up my arms and said, you know what? This is my cards. This is what I'm dealt. What if I just gave up? What if I just gave up and threw my hands up and said, you know what? This is my life. This is all it's going to be. I wouldn't be standing here tonight speaking to you guys. I don't know who would be. I really don't. But what I want you guys to know is that the enemy has a ransom for your life. Do you know what a ransom is? A ransom is a wager, a money. You see it on TV and the news and things like that. When somebody's kidnapped, most of the time it's for ransom. It's for a wager. It's for something. The enemy has a ransom on your life. He's wanting to take you out. Why? Because he knows the impact you can make in this world if you let God use you. I'm so tired of the enemy winning. I want you to know that I'm so tired of the enemy winning on your lives. And I'm not joking. I'm so tired of people getting beat up because of their sin and being like, okay, I'm all right. It's just a part of who I am. I'm so tired of just people being okay with sin. Sin is not okay. It's not. Next week we're going to get more into it, but I want you guys to know that God wants so much more out of your life. He wants so much more. He doesn't just want a piece of your pie. He doesn't want just pieces of your life. He wants everything, everything, everything. He wants everything. We all need people in our lives. I'm only here because of God saving my life and knowing I need people around me to help me be the man that God has called me to be. Thank God that there's people around me that are saying, you know what, Pastor Jason, I know it's hard. I know life's hard. I know there's struggles. I know there's things that happen in our life that try to pull us away from our relationship with God. But what we need to know is our relationship with God is so much more important than the desires of our life. We can desire whatever you want. You could desire money. You could desire clothes. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when we begin to put that as a priority over our lives, that's the problem. We cannot do it alone. We cannot do it alone. We have to have people around us that are going to encourage us. But I want to ask you guys a question tonight. Who is that person going to be? If you thought about it right now, seriously, I want you guys to think about this. If you were to think right now, if I was in a life or death moment, who would I call? And that person that you would call is that person spiritual enough to get you through every war of your soul. Every struggle you go through, every pain you feel, every hurt in your heart. I want you guys to know tonight that I want to be that person in your life. I want to be the person that you say, you know what, Pastor Jason, this is what I'm going through. And me be the one not judging. You know why? Because if I judged you, gosh, all the things that I've done in my life, if I begin to start telling you the things that God saved me out of, you'd begin to realize that God can do the miraculous. You know, when people said, you can't do it, you can't do it, I begin to fight for what people said I can't be. There was a teacher when I was in high school. He told me, he said, Jason, I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing we can do for you. There's nothing we can do for you. About 2 years ago, I got in touch with that guy. And now he's the assistant principal at the high school I went to. A couple years ago, I just happened to get in contact with him, and I said, hey man, I just want you to come to an event I was doing. When I worked for Teen Challenge, I was the outreach coordinator, so I traveled throughout Florida about drug prevention and things like that. And I said, hey, I want you to come. I was doing a detention center in Bradenton where I grew up. And he came. And he just hugged me. And he said, I just didn't ever think you would get out of the life that you were living. I didn't think there was any hope. And he gave me a hug. I remember that moment that he gave me a hug, and I was just like, God, if God can change my life to the point where the one that was telling me I'd never amount to anything was embracing me and giving me a hug, anybody in this room could do it. Everybody stand up, please. I want you to know the biggest thing that holds us back from our relationship with God is fear. Fear of worrying about what other people think of you. I don't give a rat's behind what people think about me. It's just the truth. And I think that in your relationship with God, that you need to have the same mindset. Not saying that you don't care people's opinions and thoughts. What I'm saying is, when something tries to come up against our relationship with God, it's kind of like, dude, I have no time for you. I'm going this way, and if you're not willing to go, you got to bounce. Fear is the biggest thing that holds us back. I want you guys to know that tonight. Sin kidnaps our heart first, but fear keeps us there. How do people stay in sin? Because they're fearful to get out of it. Everybody bow your heads. Play that My Romance song. I want you guys to listen to this song with your eyes closed and turn it up. We're just going to stand for a couple of minutes. I want you guys to really listen to these words.
Flowers bloom for you. They want to show you the beauty, Lord. Running waters dance, you and I romance. None to you be all the glory. sing. The angels dance around you. The earth it sings about you, Lord. Open up the heavens, Lord. Let your kingdom come to earth. My praises all surround you. My soul can't dance without you, Lord. Open up the heavens, Lord. Let your kingdom come to earth. And unto you be all the glory. And unto you be all the glory, Lord. And unto you be all the glory. And unto you be all.
Everybody, why don't you come forward? I want everybody to come forward. Everybody come forward. Out of your chairs, come forward. If you're in the back, please come forward. Let's pack out this area. Guys, be quiet while you're coming up, please.
Sing, look at the way. Look at the way the flowers bloom for you. They want to show you the beauty, Lord. Running water dance.
I want to ask you guys a
You
question.
and I romance.
Turn it down just a little bit.
To you be all the glory.
I want to ask you guys an honest question. If you struggle with fear, I want you to raise your hand. If you struggle with what people think about you, I want you to raise your hand. Amen. Put them down. I'm going to pray for you. Because you know what? Fear has no part in your life. Fear has no part in your life. You know why? Because fear is nothing from God. Father, I thank you right now, God, that we don't have to fear what people think about us. We don't have to fear what people say about us. We don't have to fear by what we dress and how we act that we can fit in. God, but you gave us a character, you've given us a life, and you've called us to live this life because this life is important to us and to you. God, I pray for everybody that raised their hand tonight and said, you know what, I struggle with fear. I want you to know, students, I struggle with fear sometimes too. You're not alone. You're not alone. Father, I pray right now, God, that you do such a new thing in our hearts, God. God, that we can honor you with our mouth, with our thoughts, with our actions, with everything that we are. God, I pray that we can honor you. God, we know it's not going to be easy, God, but allow us to honor you.